Hey guys, it's Versha from Now This, and welcome to possibly the most drama-filled edition of Trumped Up Thursdays that we've had so far in this administration. The word of the day is drama. There is so much drama happening. Actually, the word of the day might actually be perjury, but we'll get to that in a minute. But we want to break down for you what exactly is happening with the Trump administration, this latest Russia scandal that's involving Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He appears to have lied under oath about contact with Russia. So we've got a clip that we'll show for you guys shortly about what actually happened when he was testifying in front of Congress just a few weeks ago. But, you know, right here at the top, I wanted to ask you guys, what are your questions about this latest controversy? What are you confused about? We know there's a lot of different stories, and honestly, there's a lot of different Russia scandals happening in the Trump administration. So let us know your questions in the comments. We'll try to get to them today. If not today, we'll definitely make sure that we're getting to them very soon. But the news, the big drama, is that Attorney General Jeff Sessions said under oath that he did not have contact with Russian officials during the election or in 2016. There was a bombshell report from the Washington Post last night that said, actually, Jeff Sessions met with the Russian ambassador, who's definitely a Russian official, twice last year. At the Republican National Convention in July and in his office in Congress in the fall. So we do have the clip of when Senator Al Franken point blank asked him if he had met or spoken to Russian officials last year. So let's take a look at this clip. It happened just a couple weeks ago.
I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it. I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it. I'm not aware.
So you saw very clearly there what Jeff Sessions' answer was. That was during his confirmation hearing for his job as Attorney General, which he was actually confirmed. He is now officially Attorney General, which is the highest law enforcement officer in the nation. So somebody in that position should really care about adhering to the law and not lying under oath. Unfortunately, it seems that he has been caught in this lie. So at least 24 Democrats, in just like the 12 hours that this news report came out, at least 24 Democrats are already calling for him to resign completely from his position. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders has called on him to resign. A lot of high-profile Democrats have said that he needs to step down because he was caught in this lie. But what's even more interesting is that even Republicans are calling for him not to resign right now, but to at least recuse himself from an ongoing investigation that's happening in the government over Trump's ties to Russia. So you've been hearing about Trump and Russia for a long time. There's been a lot of good reporting that's come out about what those ties are. The FBI and the Department of Justice are currently investigating what's actually happened. And Jeff Sessions, as Attorney General and head of the Department of Justice, is involved in that investigation. But it seems that he's very much compromised himself by lying about this contact with the Russian ambassador. And so that's why even Republicans are saying that he needs to recuse himself from the investigation. Jason Chaffetz is one of them. Darrell Issa is one of them. The most generous reading of what Jeff Sessions did is that, a group of ambassadors approached him at the Republican National Convention last July after he gave a speech. It's possible that he forgot that the Russian ambassador was in this group of perhaps 20 people that he met, and he didn't think of that as having contact with the Russians during the election. But then he had a meeting with the Russian ambassador in his office in the Senate in the fall. So that sort of sit-down meeting would indicate that that's something that you should remember, that there will be Senate records of, that there will be inter-office records of. And it's not even just the exchange that happened with Franken that you guys saw there. There was actually a written questionnaire that Jeff Sessions had to fill out before he testified in front of Congress. And there was a question in there: have you had any contact with Russians during the election? And again, he wrote straightforward, simple, no. He said no. and that's just not the case. So let's go back to 1999 when Jeff Sessions was still a member of Congress. There's a little bit of a throwback. This is when the Monica Lewinsky scandal was happening, and Bill Clinton lied, right? He said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman to the nation. And Congress was talking about perjury when it came out that he very much did have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. So at the time, Jeff Sessions said that that allegation of perjury for Bill Clinton was a very serious allegation. Jeff Sessions said, quote, in America, the Supreme Court and the American people believe no one is above the law. So if we're going by Jeff Sessions' standards in 1999, the least Jeff Sessions needs to do today in 2017 is recuse himself from this investigation and admit that he lied. And if he did lie and we found that he's committed perjury, then as Attorney General, the calls for his resignation are not unwarranted. So, some people on Facebook and Twitter are already saying this, but it seems like in 2017, I did not have communications with the Russians might be the new, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. It might be the new catchphrase that catches on. Now, if Jeff Sessions does end up resigning, remember, we're only on day 42 of the Trump administration, and he would be the second Trump cabinet member to fall because they lied about ties to Russia. Michael Flynn, if you guys remember, National Security Advisor, resigned just a little less than 2 weeks ago because he was found to have lied to the Trump administration. So this is something where it'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out. Does the American public and Congress care more about Michael Flynn lying to Mike Pence, or do they care more about Jeff Sessions lying under testimony in front of Congress? They're pretty comparable events, and if Michael Flynn had to resign, then it would follow that Jeff Sessions probably also has to resign. So far, Flynn is the only one who's resigned from the administration, but if you go back to the campaign days, there was Carter Page, who was the senior foreign policy advisor. There was Paul Manafort, who was hired as a campaign manager at one point. Both of these people ended up resigning, quitting the Trump campaign because of ties to Russia that they tried to hide. So you could say that, maybe 1 or 2 people being involved in this are anomalies, but when you get to 4, 5, 6 people who are in these very senior positions and very close to Trump, that's a pattern. So that's why we need an investigation, because it has become such a pattern. And we know what we know, thanks to reporting from places like the Washington Post and the New York Times, but there's still more that we need to find out. What were the subject of these conversations? Something that Sessions is trying to say, or that Trump administration officials are trying to say, is that it was lighthearted talk about the election that he had. That's not a real defense. If they actually talked about the election while Jeff Sessions was a senior advisor to the Trump campaign, then we need to know what was happening, because it was only 3 days later that the DNC leaked emails started coming out. And so we know that at that time that Jeff Sessions, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, all of these people were talking to Russian officials that Russia was helping WikiLeaks and releasing leaked information from hacked emails, which we now know from the FBI was one way that they tried to interfere with the US election. So that's pretty problematic. And going back to the need for like a bipartisan independent investigation, this is why we need a special prosecutor, because Jeff Sessions himself is obviously compromised and other members of the Trump administration have been compromised. So this is not, a Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative thing. This is actually that some Republicans are saying that we do need a special prosecutor for an investigation into Russia ties. So let's take a look at this video, which has some Republicans talking about why they want this to happen.
You cannot have somebody, a friend of mine, Jeff Sessions, who was on the campaign and who was an appointee. You're going to need to use the special prosecutor's statute and office. There may or may not be fault, but the American people who are beginning to understand that Putin murders his enemies, we've been doing, quote, working with. Now, we have to work with them. We don't have to trust them. And we need to investigate their activities.
We're there yet. Let's work through this process. You guys want to jump to the very end of the line. That's not how this works. Typically, you go through a congressional oversight review. We're doing that. Let's not go to the very end of the extreme. Let's let this play out the way that it should.
So I want to be clear on this point. I'm seeing this question kind of pop up in the comments, and it's a question I'm hearing in the newsroom. Why would Jeff Sessions have to recuse himself? General, he is head of the Department of Justice and works with the FBI. Those are the departments that are currently leading the Russian investigation. So Jeff Sessions is essentially in charge or overseeing an investigation that has to do with himself. So it follows we have evidence that he's already lied under oath. He might do something to interfere with that investigation, totally unethical, possibly illegal. He might try to hide information. He might try to downplay information. So that's why both Republicans and Democrats are saying, at the very least, he has to remove himself completely from this investigation so that we can actually get answers. And you saw the deputy White House press secretary at the end of that video there saying, like, oh, okay, guys, like, let's not jump the gun. Let's see what else is out there. But this is the problem. This is a pattern that has been happening for a year now. It all begs the question that if the Trump team truly has nothing to hide about their ties with Russia, then why are they trying so hard to hide it? Why are multiple officials or senior advisors getting caught in lies about it? It really doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. But you can be sure that we here at Now This Politics will be doing our best to get to the bottom of it and bringing you the latest news, both on live and on Now This Politics. So make sure that you guys stay tuned. And again, leave any questions in the comments. Let us know what you're confused about. We want to know. We want to help inform you. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye, guys.